Let's stay on this topic, this aid that's being offered from Canada's Housing Agency when it comes to a down payment for first-time home buyers. Let's get perspective now from James Laird of Ratehub.ca. Good to see you, James.
Hey, Greg.
So this was, we were expecting something in this budget, James, about how to help millennials. At first blush, you take a look at this measure, I mean, second blush now, a day afterward. Do you think it's going to be effective? Do you think it's going to work the way they hope it's going to work?
I don't. Well, it depends what they had in mind. I just did the math on qualifying, and something that I'm not sure has got much air so far is that in order to qualify for this new measure, the total between your mortgage amount and the amount that you take from the government cannot exceed 4 times your income. The number one issue facing first-time homebuyers is how much they can qualify for it. In the New World Post-Stress Test, this is their number one concern. And without participating in this program, they can actually qualify for about 4.5 to 4.7 times their income. So by putting themselves in this program, they actually reduce the amount of home that they can purchase by about 10%. And I've got an example with a household making $100,000. Without the program, they can qualify for a purchase price of about $470,000, leaving them a mortgage of about $466,000. If they put themselves in the program, the maximum purchase price drops to $404,000, wow, which keeps their mortgage amount below $400,000. And in either case, they still have to make the minimum down payment. So in either scenario, you have to come up with the minimum 5% down. But if you don't co-own the house,
if you don't accept that help from the CMHC where they co-own your house, you
qualify for more. I was pretty astounded.
Yeah, that seems like not to be the intention of this policy whatsoever.
No, not at all. It's actually called affordability, and so the thing that they've called affordability actually reduces your affordability. And so I was those concerned about this creating a housing bubble should not be concerned. The other thing I found quite extraordinary is the BC government implemented a very similar policy a couple of years ago. The outgoing Liberal government implemented a program where if you put 5% down, they would match in a very similar way. They were expecting big uptake, and they only got about 7% of the uptake that they were expecting, and therefore the incoming NDP government just canceled the program because it was ineffective. So this one truly had me scratching my head.
Now, millennials and first-time home buyers, I mean, the largest target group here is millennials, but some people might be a little bit older than that, looking for their first home. When they take a look at this, perhaps they're only hearing, oh, 10% on a $400,000 house, they're just going to give me 40 grand for my down payment, but shared equity mortgage. We don't have a lot of details right now, but I did ask the finance minister, Bill Morneau, yesterday, what does that mean? Is it an interest-free loan, or is there some participation on the upside when you sell the house? He said, well, you know, it's shared equity, so there will be an equity stake. So basically, this might be something that a lot of people aren't clear on, what exactly it means when the CMHC shares equity in your home.
But by definition, the word equity implies ownership. Mm-hmm. And so I think taking the words by their definition, we have to assume that when you go to sell your house, that the government is also going to participate in the upside. So let's say it's a $30,000 stake initially, that might rise to 40 or 50 or more when you go to sell your house in 20 years. So again, a pretty unattractive proposition to be co-owners with the government. You know, we're talking about young people who are graduating into adulthood, going out to buy their first home. Do they really want to do it in partnership with the government and knowing that the amount that they owe the government is growing as their home appreciates? I don't think so.
Do you think those finer points might elude some people? We talk about a lot about the fact that, of course, this is a pre-election budget and they want to bring people into the fold. Once you get past the hole, it's not just $40,000 thrown in your lap, no strings attached. Do you think people follow that bouncing ball down the line?
Well, I think it's coming out today, and I think it's you know, the verbiage, you know, affordability and help for millennials, it sounds good, but when you get down the weeds and do some math on it, it's at best neutral, and at worst, it's actually unhelpful because it reduces your affordability. And again, that is the number one issue facing millennials. Since the stress test, that's caused at 2%, and rates have also gone up by 1%. So our calculations suggest that a millennial today can afford about 35% less house than they could about 2.5 years ago. That is their number one concern. They put themselves in this program, they can afford even less.
Now, the stress tests were mentioned in the budget very briefly, and basically it's repeated the same line that we heard from the banking regulator earlier this year, OSFI. Would we ever consider changing them? Well, if situations changed and warranted, we sure would, but didn't really have an appetite for it right now. Was that disappointing to you that they weren't willing to tinker with that at all?
I wasn't advocating for taking away or reducing the stress tests. I think the right measure, and one I think we might see the official opposition put into their election platform, is to bring back the 30-year amortization for high-ratio mortgages. This achieves two things. One, it increases affordability by about 10%. So household making a certain income can qualify for about 10% more house. At the same time, it doesn't increase their mortgage payment at all. So the household on a monthly basis is no more stressed than it was before. They just pay it off over a little bit longer period of time. So I think this is absolutely the right policy to help millennials actually get into homes, and what I think we might see the federal Conservatives add into their election platform.
James, always great to have you here. Thanks for your time and insight.
Thanks, Rick.
It was James Laird of Ratehub.ca.